Okay, so we're now recording. This is our teaching workshop. Hugo, take it away.
Okay, it's great to see everybody. Welcome. This is our annual Teaching Economics workshop, and it's a very special edition of it because we're going to be covering best practices for online teaching. And we're going to be emphasizing the positives of online teaching. Beyond the fact that our students don't have any frat parties or sorority parties and can focus all of their attention just on our courses, and therefore will learn more from us than in any other semester previous. Online technology also allows us to do many things that we really couldn't do in person. And so our presenters today will show you some of the wonderfully creative approaches that they have taken and that they've discovered since the beginning of the semester for online teaching. So we have a very exciting and creative program. I'm just going to share the program with you to get us started. Switch to my screen share. So I'm kicking things off with an introduction and a few quick tricks. And Hashem's going to talk about organization essentials for online teaching. We have Melvin talking about technology, pedagogy, and psychology. Elena will tell us about what she's learned from her first flipped class. It should be very exciting. David will talk about hardware for online teaching. Very exciting as well. Shomu, hacks for better student engagement. Kelly will talk about using the online format to our advantage. And then Evan will finish this off with a talk on low-tech online teaching. And so speaking of low-tech, first thing that I want to talk about just briefly is this wonderful physical whiteboard that I have here, which has proved quite useful. Like when I'm doing advising meetings or meeting with an honor student, we work through ideas on this physical whiteboard. It's also got other advantages. It's a fail-safe in case we just heard from Tao, whose wireless connection is tenuous. Well, the whiteboard's a good fail-safe if your wireless goes out because you can always use your phone and dial in with cellular. I have a little holder for my phone like this. And you install the Zoom app on your phone and you dial into your meeting using your cellular rather than your wireless. And then you point the phone to your face and to your whiteboard and you can finish up your class like that. The phone doesn't have the option of sharing the screen. The Zoom app on the phone is a little simpler and you can't really write on a phone either. So having like a physical whiteboard is a very good fail-safe. Another quick trick that has proved incredibly useful is the combination of an iPad and MS OneNote, especially useful for teaching economics. I learned this from several of our colleagues. So David and Sue have been using MS OneNote for years. Evan used it to great effect last spring. And so I have a simple iPad and a magic pencil. And you can go ahead and I'll do a new share and I'll share my, under basic, there is iPhone, iPad, and I'll share my iPad screen. You then, on your iPad, go into the control center and mirror the iPad onto the computer screen like so. So now you should be able to see my iPad screen. And on there I have a little app called MS OneNote, which is wonderful. So I'm going to open this up in a document in MS OneNote. I just cut and pasted a PDF of all of my slides, as you can see here, and I can expand or contract them and go through them as I wish. And the other wonderful feature is that, if you're on a slide, for example, covering choice under uncertainty, and you want to write down some models, then you can go ahead and write down models, and you can scroll to the right endlessly, an application to insurance, choice under uncertainty, an application to crime, and an application to discrimination, police discrimination, public health. And you just scroll endlessly and keep writing. And this is wonderful for students, very clear when they see it. And you can scroll down, of course, endlessly. And for any slide, write any amount of equations you like. So this has proved really useful. And as an added bonus, a quick added bonus, this MS OneNote integrates directly with your Canvas. So I'm going to show you something on my screen now I'm going to move to a screen share, and instead of seeing the workshop program, I'm going to pull up my Canvas site. And on my Canvas site, you can see on the left panel, there's something called Class Notebook. If you don't have it, you can scroll down to Settings, click Settings, and add the Class Notebook. And in the Class Notebook, when students log in, they sign in to their Emory Microsoft OneNote account using their Emory ID and password. And then they go into a folder and they see my notes. As I write them, they're instantaneously updated for all students who can access them at any time during Canvas. And this is a really nice feature of integration between MS OneNote and Canvas. Okay, one more thing that I'd like to talk about before I give it up to Hashem.
Hugo, can I ask one quick question?
Yeah, sure, Tal, go ahead.
So I have limited experience with OneNote. I think it's very good with Apple Pencil. And
we're kind of losing you.
How do you save those files? How do you save those files? I mean, on iPad.
They're automatically saved. So they're in the iPad MS OneNote app. And as you edit them, they're automatically saved.
Okay.
Yep. So all you would need to do is download that app. It's remarkable. I was scared of using this as well, but it's remarkably smooth. Evan used it and showed me how he used it last spring, and it works really well.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? This is Dan Wagner.
Yes.
Does it work with non-Apple products? In other words, do you really kind of have to buy an iPad, or could you have?
Well, it looks like for the Zoom sharing, you do need an iPhone iPad is what it's integrated with. That's a question, I guess, for our Emory IT, whether they could integrate. What do you have, like a tablet? Dan?
Yeah, no, I have an old Android tablet right now that I don't really use very much,
Well, the iPads have gotten really good. The iPad Pro and the Magic Pencil are really a notch above the previous iPads. The wonderful thing about these new iPads and these new pencils is that you can put your whole hand onto the screen and it will recognize that it's your hand and distinguish the pencil. So you can really rest.
Right.
So that technology's improved and it might be worth updating to a new iPad.
Okay.
And I think any laptop that you have or Microsoft tablet would work as well.
Right. I'm actually in a Linux universe, so.
In a what?
In a Linux universe.
Oh, okay.
But I may just have to break down and.
Yeah, you know, Emory IT has been great. Just contact them and they'll help you connect in the ways that you have available.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I just want to mention briefly before I pass it on, a few notes about exams. So many of you are wondering, you know, how you're going to give your exam, how you're going to deal, especially with some of your students having extended time. So the first thing to know, there's a address here, emory/accommodate.simplicity.com. And if you go there, you can get the Office of Accessibility Services accommodation letters for every one of the students who have these accommodations that are in your classes. And so that way you'll know which students have what extra time. Some of them will have time and a half, some of them have double time. And once you know that, Canvas is wonderful because it allows you to create these extensions for particular students in very natural and simple ways. For example, if you are designing a quiz in Canvas, on the right-hand side, you have an option to click on Moderate Quiz, and then you can give different students extensions on that particular quiz as their accommodation letter suggests. Or if you're giving a midterm, an exam, or another assignment, I'm giving my midterm during class time synchronously, and I'm uploading a PDF, and they're working on it, and then we'll submit their answers in a Word file or a Google Docs file. Well, if you scroll down to the bottom where you're creating that assignment or midterm, you can say plus add, and then you can assign differently that midterm or that assignment to different ones of your students with different due dates. So that's an easy way to administer exam and accommodate all the OAS accommodation letters that you will have received. Okay, I don't want to go any further. We have a really packed schedule. At this point, I'm going to hand it off to Hashem. Please stay within your time limit and reserve 10–15% of your allotted time for questions. Hashem, I'm going to pass it on to you.
You, Hugo.
Sit there, yeah.
Good afternoon. So this is the outline of what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to try to stay within the time limit that I'm allotted. Let me start with a disclaimer. My understanding of this workshop is that we are all sharing some of the experiences we have had and some of the methods that we are using to succeed in online teaching. Nobody is suggesting that anything they do is better than anything anybody else is doing. Nobody has discovered the optimal way of teaching online. But I think this workshop would be a great success if every one of us can take one insight point from each presentation. Then you can just the number of presenters multiplied by number of attendees, you can see that significant amount of insight will be carried to classrooms. The main issues that we had actually was, let me actually go to this, was we had over summer was how are we going to migrate to online teaching? Of course, some of us had done this over the spring, but that was different. That was more a copy and paste approach that we pasted whatever we were doing. We copied whatever we were doing in a face-to-face teaching when we pasted it into an online setting. The alternative was to try to use significant amount of technology infused into our teaching. And we went through a lot of training for that, if you remember. So it was actually a summer of COVID, Canvas, and confusion, the way I see it. We have spent significant amount of the summer, June and half of July, I'm talking about myself, attending a lot of workshops and look at all of these that were recommended at different points for us to do, and it continues, never ending. So at the end of all these, you are thinking, what am I going to do? Which one of these am I going to use? How is it going to affect my teaching style and what I have been doing for years? So I came into realization at one point that no, and no. So that the question was that how about just confining to a method of copy and paste? Would that be good? Let me give you a motivation to suggest that that's not a good method either. If I ask you why is it that PowerPoint fonts are so large, the answer is obvious, because the audience is sitting 100 yards or maybe even a more distant space from the screen in most of the classrooms. So the fonts need to be large. Look at this. This is from the time that I was teaching in person. I had 180 students in class. So this is a typical slide. You try to infuse a little bit of color to attract their attention. The fonts are large, so people who are sitting far away, they can see. But when you are teaching online and the students are only half a yard away from the screen that you put up, this is really annoying, as you can see. It's bothersome and it could be distracting. So you have to use a different way of, this is actually what that's how that translated, with a little bit of graphic to get the point across. So this is a different slide that the other one was. So a simple cut and paste is not gonna work. And the companion of that simple cut and paste was long taped lectures. who wants to see an 80-minute movie starring me pontificating away? That's going to put any of my students to sleep. So that's not going to work either. So the point is that on this spectrum of extremely indulgence in technology on one side and the other extreme of just copy and paste, where do you choose your right space, your right location? And I think that's a question that everybody has to answer for themselves based on the course they are teaching, number of students they have, so on and so forth. So for me, it was back to the basics. I tried to see what is it that I can do so that I can serve the objectives of my course. I have 160 students, so it's a very different setting that much smaller classrooms. I found PowerPoint to be extremely powerful and useful. PowerPoint has a lot of features that I had never explored myself because we just use it, we write down some stuff and then we post it, the students look at it, and then in class we elaborate on. But this could be, you could use it to actually do graphs, you can do animation on it, and you can put voice over it. So if you put voice over a slide and you post it, why do I need, I'm asking myself, why do I need to have a video of myself there for the students to see? They need to hear me rather than to see me. I'm not teaching dance so that they need to really look at my motions. As long as they can hear me, I've served the job. And if the slides are detailed enough, this is a typical comparison of Monopoly with a perfect competition in order to identify Monopoly's impact, negative impact. Look, this is all done with click. And one advantage of it is that the students actually have the slide and they can actually do it over and over. It's a very good learning device compared to if I would just draw the graph for them in class and they copy the graph and then later on they don't know how they did it. And while actually this is a total animation, so they can actually see how the graph is drawn, the two equilibriums, and then you have the Monopoly's income effect, and then you have the transfer effect. And they can go back and forth and you can erase it quickly and then redo it again. And they can do it a lot of times so that they can, and some of you probably do a lot more complex diagrams, they can do it and they can learn from that. So, and in terms of really the voice component, there are different ways you can do it. You can do voice over, which is going to be synchronized with every click of the mouse, but you don't need to do that. You can actually insert a voice file, or maybe two voice files in different locations on the slide, and they can just click on it and they can hear you talk. So that's what I do and what I post for them before class. So all my lectures before class, they are posted with voiceover and the students actually look at it before they come to class. The second challenge that I had was that how am I going to get them engaged? You know, it's very difficult for them to ask questions. And of course, you can imagine that they want to communicate now given the environment we are in. So I have found the breakout rooms to be extremely useful for this class. I never had the opportunity when I taught 180 students to divide them into groups of 5, assign an article related to the topic, let them discuss it, and then we could go over it. It was impossible in classroom setting, but now it's extremely easy. I divide them into groups of 5, and I give them 5 minutes. There is an article assigned. They read the article, they come out, and then we discuss that. The other issue that I was dealing with, and I always struggle in my classroom, was, you know, how do I know if they are really paying attention to my lecture? They are sitting there and they are looking at the screen. So one of the things that I came up with is that I said, I'm going to really grade them for everything they do, not just for an exam at the end, an hour and a half that would decide their fate. I'm going to grade them for every minute of the class. How am I going to do that? They are there in the classroom. They are supposed to be listening to our conversations when they are in classroom, in the sync classes. So at any moment, I can actually take a poll on Canvas. And the poll would be a question related to something that we discussed 10 minutes ago. And the answers are 4 or 5 answers, just like a multiple choice. And they have only 5 or 10 seconds to respond. I don't give them more time. This way I can determine, are they there? because some of them could not be there, right? You know, even their face. I mean, right now I look at the screen, most people actually, I don't see their face. Are they there? Are they walking their dog, doing their dishes? What are they doing? There's just a name that I see or a picture that I see. So this way, I know if they are there and if they are paying attention. I know, Stefan, you are there for sure. I know that they are there and they are focusing. And these Zoom actually takes a, you can download from Zoom these poll outcomes and grade it. For every poll, I give some points. So based on that, a part of the exam is graded. The next challenge that I had was that, how do I know if they have really looked at the detailed lecture notes that I post, that I want them to look at with voiceover before they come? And I thought that I have to test them on that too. So I have almost daily quizzes. And the quizzes are going to be based on the material that I'm going to teach, not the material that I've taught before. And the quizzes are testing whether they actually looked over the slides and looked over the, listened to the voice before they come to class. And the quizzes take about 3 minutes. I don't get more than 3 minutes, maybe one question, maybe two questions. Extremely easy to do. And they usually do that. There is not much time for them if they wanted to cheat. And this is a way of rewarding the ones who pay attention. And let me tell you about the data. Initially, when they did that, more than 2/3 of them actually failed the first Zoom and they failed the first quiz. It was a big shock to them. We had serious conversation after that. The second time that we did it, the result improved significantly. And then the third time we did it, now they are approaching actually point of acing, most of them, both the Zoom and the quizzes. And I'm really happy because that means that they are engaged, they are paying attention. And one thing I've noticed was that once we implemented that, it took two to 3 weeks to implement it. During the first 2 to 3 weeks, I had a lot of students coming to my office hours. Ever since, I don't have anybody coming to my office hours, except if they are coming to ask about majors or they have a personal thing that they want to talk about. They don't come to talk about the course material. And I'm thinking to myself, years of my life went to waste spending time in office hours trying to teach students what I taught them in class that they weren't paying attention. And this has actually helped to do that. And Hugo mentioned some interesting points about this quiz potential. And quiz, by the way, quiz also means exam. They are all classified under quiz on Canvas. So you can time it. You can give some people more time, some people less time. Other possibilities, and especially those who give multiple choice. And by the way, a lot of questions that can be given as essay can be decomposed into multiple choice that requires them to do things step by step rather than one final answer. I've noticed that this can be easily done. For example, just a simple example, and this is the end. I have just 2 minutes and then I'm done. So in terms of really questions, let's say that I'm giving a question on calculation of elasticity. Okay, I give them a demand equation and I want them to calculate elasticity at a particular point. So I make 5 questions on that with 5 different demand and 5 answers. And every one of those questions is going to have the same 5 answers, which means that one answer is correct for that question and the other 4 answers are correct for the other 4 questions. Now the system is going to shuffle the question and assign it to a student. So if for any reason, any student tries to communicate with somebody else that, oh, the elasticity question is the answer 2. And of course the answer is that, yeah, because 2 is one of the answers for one of those 5 questions. So if they try to communicate with each other, and they don't have, by the way, much time to do, but even if they did, the answer they're going to get is going to lead them to just a random guess, because it's 5 answers, it's almost like you're guessing 1 out of 5. That because you don't know the other person, which one of the 5 elastic questions they have. And the other thing, one thing I'm going to do for my final exam, it's going to be much larger, a lot more questions, shuffling, but it's also that they can see only one question at a time. Once they answer that question, they cannot go back and revisit. Think about cheating. Most of the time, people who cheat, you have to have a giver, you have to have a taker. The giver has to be done with their own exam, to be able to cheat. Otherwise, they're wasting their time. And usually this happens toward the end of the exam. When I'm done with my exam and I'm trying to help, I don't know, somebody else. Here, you don't have that opportunity because any question you answer is gone. You don't know what question you have answered, what question you had, and what question they have, which are not necessarily the same thing. And any other students at any point has only access to one question, not more. So this is a way that I think, and of course, combined with a lockdown browser, I think it's going to make the exam, which is going to be given in real time with under tremendous time constraint for them, is going to eliminate the cheating issue. And then my last point, organization is extremely important. One of the things that my students keep on telling me is that they have an extremely hard time, not in econ classes, in other classes, with the way the Canvas courses are set up. It's extremely confusing, and so I just wanted to, I spent a lot of time actually on design of the Canvas. I'm going to just take 1 minute, show you one thing here. Okay, this is our Canvas page. You're in a student view. Notice that you don't have a lot of bells and whistles on the side here. So this is a picture, and that's all they need. On the top, we have administrative. The bottoms, if you click on, for example, instruction you're going to see my all the information about me and my graduate and undergraduate TAs, how to contact them, office hours, Zoom address for office hours, so on and so forth. So all of that is here. If they want to take any exam or quiz, all they have to do, click on that. When the right time is for the right quiz, that quiz has become visible. Q&A discussion they put here. And then any homework is here with the problem. They have to do a paper. All the information related to that paper is there, including the button that they have to press when they want to submit the paper. So the textbook informations are here. The syllabus is right there, along with Zoom and Canvas information. So this is administration, and we went over it the first day of class. Here is everything else they need. All they have to do is to figure out which day it is. Once you know the day, you click on the day, and let's say you go to here, they are here, and this opens up for them. These are lectures related to demand and supply analysis that they discuss, or lecture about basic concepts. And if this is August 31st, they click on August 31st, and all they need is here. This tells them what they need to do before class. There is an article they have to read. This is the PowerPoint without voice. That's the PowerPoint with voice. And then during class, this is the Zoom link they have. And then class recording will be posted here afterward. And this is after class. What they need to do after class, two interesting clips, one about Lion King and one about Monster Incorporated, each 3 or 4 minutes, that actually relates to the concept that we discussed, because here we are discussing issues that these particular movies actually helped convey. That's about it. So with that,
we have time for a question. There's a lot of questions in the chat. If somebody would like to ask a question of Hashem.
yes, please unmute your microphone and ask your question, please.
Chris, did you have a question?
Well, not necessarily a question, but more of a comment, something that happens. Maybe my class is special, but like for a lot of my students, they have issues with the internet, and even if they're not on video, as a matter of the fact, no one in my class is on video because of the bandwidth issues, except for me. They drop in and out of class. So I feel that, grading them on these polls or on these sort of pop-up quizzes, I just wonder, how do you deal with that, Hashem, right?
Chris, maybe I've been lucky. We don't have that issue. When we take the quiz, I have 160 students and I can see all their faces. And we have had maybe 2 or 3 cases where people actually had this kind of complaints, and we dealt with them. We tried to be flexible, and with these polls, there is a degree of freedom I give them, like 3 they can miss, because of this kind of situation. And the same with quizzes. I allow them to miss 3 quizzes, and the system actually drops the lowest 3 that they have. But you know, I'm knocking on wood. I do it from my office. I never have a bandwidth issue. They haven't had any bandwidth issue. One issue that they had in the beginning was that they were not logging into Zoom using the desktop and using their Emory ID. And if they do that, Zoom somehow is not going to record their poll. But now they're all doing that. And every time that we download, we see that, you know, they're all there. So we haven't had any issues with that. So, and I'm hoping now this is almost halfway through the semester. Many quizzes so far, and we haven't had really any issues. And all of the quizzes, by the way, are timed under tremendous pressure, 3 minutes. And 1 minute before the start of the quiz, I tell them the quiz is coming. They open their Canvas, they are on Canvas, and then the quiz becomes visible right on second, and then it ends right on second.
Okay, and how do you deal with time zones? Like, you know.
My class is at 11, so we don't have, except if we had people who were in Hawaii, I guess. Fortunately, we don't. The farthest away is 11 o'clock at night, and they are cool with it. A lot of them stay out. We talked about it. So again, if my class was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it would be different. But I think students are also given, especially these sections that we have multiple sections, they decide which section they want to go to. And I told them in the beginning of the semester, I said, look, one of my colleagues is still teaching a class which is earlier than my class. Hugo's class is the same day, and it's 2 hours before my class. So if this class is late for you, because I'm going to give you final exam based on the time they have given me, and you have only an hour and a half to do it. So maybe 1 or 2 people dropped out, but the rest of them stayed.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
we need to keep things rolling, and because Melvin is coming up next, and he has a commitment, right, Melvin, in a little bit? So I'll give you the floor.
Hello, everybody. This is the only time I get to see people. I'm going to stay on. I've canceled my office hours because this is for the benefit of the students. So I got to learn so I can teach them better. I told them to forget today, so I'll stay on until it's over. And during the discussion, I've got some technical issues too that I want to raise myself. So maybe we can resolve that. But let me do my spiel, and then later on I can ask follow-up questions from everything I've learned. And I'd like to start by giving Hashem the credit for doing the masterclass for me initially when I was thinking about the trade-offs between the technology, the pedagogy, and the psychology. I sound like an origin person, and I'm not even Greek or Roman except by religion, but I see the connection between trying to connect with the students, worrying about the technology as well as the content. And as economists, sometimes we forget what we teach, which is the matter of trade-off, that all these things have a cost to them. And ultimately, you have to decide for yourself where you weigh in, what's more important. Perhaps, depending on the topic you're teaching, technology may be the dominant issue to consider. Other times, it's connecting with the students. And then other times, it may just be the subject matter you're trying to communicate. I mean, on the average, you try to balance it, but life is not that simple. Sometimes the hardware give up. So all those fancy stuff we talk about in technology is predicated on the connection speed, on the specs of your computer, and that of the students you're trying to teach. I mean, for me, when I switch from one, like if I'm sharing screen and I want to move from the Zoom camera to my red dot on my iPad or to my low-tech flip board that I'm using, I suffer latency. You know, I got to share screens, switch screens, and the time is going. So trying to juggle all these, of course, when you're there, cognition in the wild, as Guy Gerenza calls it in psychology, you got to make a quick decision on what you're going to do best at any given point in time, including the mood of the student. So I kind of like what Hashem said about there's no optimal way. It actually depends on the circumstances at any given point in time. And you've got to come to a decision on what you think is best for you. The same point that Chris has been making and Elena is responding to, and Shomu, comes into play. Are you going to poll? Are you going to call names? For me, the most important thing for me is really to see the students, to stay engaged. So I try to minimize when I share screen because it tends to compress the panoramic view of the students that I have. Luckily for me, I've got 2 screens, so I can extend my screen to the larger one so I can see more of the students, and I do my share screen from my laptop, which has a smaller screen. But anyway, I just wanted to raise that point that it's really a game of balancing, checks and balances and juggling. And those 3 issues are just as important as any of the components. And it's your choice when you're there to decide what you're going to do. Thank you. I'm going to leave it there, and I'll come back again with specifics during the discussion.
Thank you so much, Melvin. Elena? Do you want to go now?
Sure.
All right.
Thank you. Can you see?
Yes.
So why I decided, so this is going to be talking about my experience flipping the course. So Hashem also, I'm not the only one. Hashem has a flipped course as well. I didn't go so fancy in my slides. But why I flipped the course and what I learned, at least for statistics, because I think it's very different between flipping a course that is more, that can be discussion based, and one course that is mostly math based. So why I decided to flip the course, first, I was worried about not being able to get to the last topic in the class, which is very important for them because they need to get to hypothesis testing to do the lab project and to get to the statistic course. And I need to get to the end. In my class, the student always complain that they do not get enough problem and examples with me. And so I thought this will give me that option. I always tickle with the idea of flipping some of this class. So this was a great opportunity for me to do it. I did not want to talk to a blank screen with all black screen with the name on it. And if I wanted to talk to nobody, I wanted to do it on my own terms. And I also know I'm teaching this class again. I was sure that I was going to be online. And so I thought it was a good investment. So it was worth for me. So here's what was my original plan. This is how the class grade was distributed. So the plan was to record video ahead of time for each class, about 30-40 minutes before each class, ideally 2 videos about 20 minutes long. Use the synchronous class for a quick review, then question, and then problems in the breakout rooms. Scrap the final, do a third project instead of the finals. Divide the grades of the 2 meter between lots of quizzes, both within the synchronous class and quizzes embedded in the video lectures. They also have, you can see they have a reading, they have to do reports from a book that they read. I give them a little grader for discussions, and they have the lab session that's completely separate. And then they have the regular assignments that they had before too. I was planning to add more discussion in Canvas and keep the readings to keep them engaged, and maybe do the assignment, keep them very timed and well, maybe one or more extra assignment. Disclaimer, I was already using Canvas extensively before, so my Canvas was already set up. So here is my tips and what, if it worked or not. What I love about my Flip course, where I have almost full attendance in my sync classes, even though they're not really mandatory. They have almost all the video on. I can see their faces. I see them working. If they don't, I call on them and ask them why it's not on, and ask them why, and make fun, not make fun, but I discuss and say, are you still there? Are you naked? You know, just to say, why is the video not on? So they're participating. I'm at the point where they answer questions when I ask them. I can call on them to answer the questions, and they ask me a lot of questions. I love it because I have much more access to the students who usually struggle in statistics. They're really there. They ask me questions. They stay after class to ask me questions. I have a slight doubt that I'm not, I have less interaction with the very good students, which are usually the ones sitting in the front of the class. But I think it's a little too early to tell. We are really on pace. I'm ahead of where I was usually, which is where I want to be because I would like to spend more time in the second part of the class. And they are now more relaxed about the work. In the last class, I asked them whether they wanted a catch-up class and take a break, or they want to move fast through the next 2 weeks so that we have more time during the most interesting part of the class, which is more important, which is sampling and testing. And they all agreed to keep going and have a break later, which I think was very important as a proof that they are on pace and they're doing okay. They're doing a lot of practice, and I'm not talking to black screens, and I'm not talking alone. So here's the tips to flip the class. If you want to do it, and I'm sure it's part of what Hashim's doing, prep ahead of time. It's going to take time to flip the course. You have to do it if it's worth it. Recording videos take time. I just talk over my usual slides, which I add a little animation, and I do it with me and with my face in the corner, and I'll probably change some of them, but I will reuse them next semester. Each video has a quiz embedded in the video that I do with Studio, so that they have to, every once in a while during the video, they're asked the multiple choice questions and that catch them, and either ask them if they have learned or help them prepare them for what's coming next. So either is a question that review what they just looked at, or make them think ahead of time of what I'm going to present later. If you want to do this, this has a little bit of a learning curve, but it gets faster with time. They love it. They tell me that they really like the quizzes in the video. They're part of their grades. Caveats, I learned later that they can watch the video many times and redo the quiz anytime. And Canvas will only record the highest score grade in the quiz. So they're basically all getting 100% on those quizzes, but I'm okay with it because it was mostly just so that they would watch the video. Work hard on your Canvas ahead of time. And sometimes you don't need to reinvent the video. I use some of the videos that I could find out there. There is a lot of stuff about statistics, and occasionally I use stuff that was done very well already and use that. Give them a weekly rhythm. For me, they have to do a lot. This is how their calendar on Canvas looks like. On the Monday, they have to turn in a homework that is written and their practical questions. On Tuesday by 6 p.m., they have to watch a video. They usually also quiz. Then they come to class. They do a synchronous quiz at the end of the class, and that's just here. On Wednesday, they usually have to do something, whether it's a comment on the Naked Statistic book, or I do a lot of survey to see how they're doing. And on Thursday, they repeat. They have everything they have to do, the 2 or 3 videos before the class. Like this is September, they had 3 videos before the class, and then they had to do a quiz by the end. Organize the module, and in my case, I organize them by topic, but more importantly, by date. So you can see every time they go here, they know that by September 8th, they have to watch this video. By September 8th, they have to watch this video. Then they have to do a homework. It's all chronological, so they just have to go here and go down the list of what they need to do for that time. Just be organized. Get them ready before class even starts. I did a lot of work. They did too. So I have them watch 2 videos before class started, before even they would do the first day of classes. It was a tour on my Canvas site. They are recorded, so that I showed them what everything was. I give them a little quiz in which they had to upload multiple pages as one PDF on Canvas, so they could practice before the first homework was even due. I also show them how to do all the setting in Canvas, including how to change the time zone in your Canvas setting. So all the due times and dates are in your time zone, whatever time zone you are. So they didn't miss a deadline, because they were confusing with the time zone. I also made them create and upload a short video. I prompt some fun questions, and they have to show their face and give me a little answer a few questions, what they're doing during the pandemic, what is the most fun things during the pandemic. This is important because I'm gonna have them do a little video of their final project. So they're practicing, right? And I learned a lot about the glitches of uploading a video on Canvas. I also make a short survey asking them what they like about the syllabus, check that they like the syllabus, and also what they were most worried about or what they were looking forward to. And then I did another survey after about 6 weeks, and I made changes accordingly. Here is what I did with the plan, this is what I do, and now let's tell me what worked or what did not work. As a note, I take the syllabus very seriously. It is my contract, so I hate changing anything that was on the syllabus, right? So I spent a lot of time thinking about early how I want to do it. And now I was stuck because there was changes that I needed to make without breaking my rules, my contract. So what did I switch? First thing that I learned was that in the introductory survey, they all were looking forward to the breakout room and talking with the classmates. Well, they like it until they have to talk about math problems. They do not like to show other students that they're weak in math, and the good student in math, they get bored about having to teach other students math. Very quickly, I realized the breakout room were not working. They hated it, and I switched to Zoom polls. So now I give them the problem, instead of having them working problem in groups, I give them a problem, and they answer in a Zoom polls. And I don't grade the Zoom polls, so they can even give me the wrong answer, and I know where they don't understand. And they're much happier. I just asked last time if this was better. They all resoundingly say yes. My great idea of dividing things into too many small assignments backfire. For statistics, why? Well, after every synchronous class, they were doing a quiz, right? In which they were asking questions about that particular class. It's great. They were remembering the stuff that we just did. They would do the quiz, they would do it right, except that they would immediately forget. So for statistics and for math, it's very important, in my opinion, that you go back and review what you've done and put it together. As I add material, I wanted them to go back. So I realized that they were doing busy work, but they were not studying, they were not reviewing, they were not going back. So now I was stuck, right? Because I told them they were not going to be a midterm, which is the goal of midterm, is to make them study and go back. So I was stuck. So what did I do? I called them. I said, oh, by the way, during the quiz, we have one big quiz, still a quiz, at the end of each topic. So halfway through, I added a big quiz, and we're going to do 4 big quizzes, which are worth a little bit more. And I don't call them midterm. And they seems like now they are reviewing and going back and studying. So I had to quickly adjust because I was not feeling that they were really studying as much as doing busy work. My homework submission, they do a lot of homework that I have to write, right? They don't all have the option to write the math. And I needed them to submit homework. So I told them to submit pictures of the homework. And I trained them ahead of time how to do it. Yet they still messed it up. So you can limit which file you're accepting your submission on Canvas. So now they can only upload a PDF file. And I'm not getting strange file formats anymore. So limit your submission to that particular file. More tiny assignments also means more emails, right? All my classes, I usually spend a lot of time to devise rules that I put in the syllable, and all the rules, and I make everything clear, are designed to protect my time. The switch to online environment, I have to learn new rules to protect my time. At the moment, I'm getting a lot of, oh my God, that questions, oh, but why did I not get that point? And so a little too many emails, but I'm toning that down. I already talked about the fact that they can take the video quizzes over and over. I didn't realize that ahead of time, but that's okay. I knew that there would be a lot to grade because of this, so I enrolled undergraduate TAs. I usually do to grade the homework. The problem is that there is more learning to do when you have to grade on Canvas. And so they tend not to mark what the students get wrong. And so the students are not happy about that. So I'm fixing that. You have to be ready and look ahead for technical glitches, especially in the math class. For example, in the BEAT quiz, they were supposed to upload their work by taking pictures of what they had done. But some of them could upload, sometimes had a hard time uploading. So yeah, so I fixed that. And be clear on contact. They seem to lose sense of time. They want office hours on a Sunday. And so they're losing sense of time, they're losing time of the week, everything. So at the end of the day, would I flip again? Absolutely. I think is worth it, and I have much more fun than I would otherwise. Would I choose a flipped course online over in-person for statistics? No. However, I think I will add some of the flipped content that I have now into my in-person class. Questions?
Elena, you indicated that there are these videos they watch and then there are questions embedded in them. If they cannot answer, can they proceed? Because there are ways you can set it up, or how do you set it up so that if they don't answer correctly, they have to go back and watch?
No, they can answer, they can guess, right? As long as they give an answer, then they can go. At the end of the day, then you, at the end of the video, is gonna say, okay, you got 3 questions right and 1 wrong. Now at this point, they can choose, they can go back and fix that question that they go wrong, or if they don't want to do it, they just submit the quiz and be done. But no, they can, they're all multiple choice or true false, and so they can just guess one and go.
Well, thank you, Elena, for a wonderful presentation. Are there any other questions for Elena? Okay, in that case, David, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Wonderful. All right, David, we'll talk about hardware and online teaching. The floor is yours, David. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm just setting this up. Okay, so I should be sharing my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So today what I'm going to be talking about is the hardware for online teaching. I'm going to mention what I basically have done for that. I'm going to talk specifically things to consider, and I'm going to talk about some of the questions, answers some of the questions you guys have talked about, especially about bandwidth, what you could do about that on our end. So what you see here on the screen, I'm using OneNote, is literally the 3 items I'm going to be, the 5 items I'm going to be talking about. So certainly this is like the bare minimum you do need to do a teaching that online that allows you for interaction with the students. A tablet, a stylus, a webcam, a headphone with microphone, and a Wi-Fi, okay? And I'm gonna talk about how I use each of these. So when it comes to tablets, Hugo just mentioned he's using an iPad. Well, I do use a Microsoft Surface. And what I learned in this experience, and you can see here, is that there are various technologies for touchscreen, okay? So there are 2 leading technologies that are the ones that most likely all of us have on is capacitive touchscreen, which is what iPads, iPhones, tablets, people talk about Samsung tablets, or my Surface is also capacitive touchscreen. And basically that's why we can write using our fingers. And that one also requires a specific type of stylus, all right? So the resistive touchscreen is the one that right now I'm using. I am on my office and my all-in-one desktop uses only basically this. I using my finger to do this, but I could use any piece of solid to do this. Okay. So on the right-hand side here on the screen, that's how basically the difference between those two. And what is the main thing that you must remember? That only the capacitive touchscreen is the one that will recognize your palm from your finger, all right? Now, that means that if you, for some reason, own a tablet that have a resistive touchscreen, that means there's a very old one, basically you cannot really write on it because it will not differentiate between your palm and your finger. Just keep in mind that. So when it comes to stylus, okay, using my finger now to do this, there are two types of stylus, and I just want to mention to you because I saw a faculty member basically once using this. So this is for the resistive one. If you see my screen, okay, this is basically is a very basic one. It's a keychain. You know, this is from I think Home Depot. My daughter got this, okay, and this one is extremely basic. All right, so this is for a resistive one. This is for that will work on tablets that will only understand your, will not differentiate between your palm and your finger. Now, if you work on an iPad, Surface, okay, then there are specific styluses needed, and this is the one that, one type of them. There are two types, passive and active. So the ones that allow you to do the most, the one, for example, this guy here, okay? That one will require a battery, but the one I'm showing you right now on the screen on my video is the passive. It does not require a battery, but it has very limited functionality, all right? So, of course, I use a Microsoft Surface Pen, and that uses a battery, okay? Basically allow you to have different, it's almost like writing with a real pen in the sense that an active capacitive pen or stylus basically allows you that the harder you press, the larger the imprint of whatever line you're drawing will be, like a real pen, all right? So for webcam, I just wanna mention to you, they are, for real good quality, you need the standard will be a 1080 pixels of high definition. They are far better, more precise webcams that you can buy, okay? But the issue on there is that you have to pay attention to something called FPS, frames per second, all right? So there are wonderful videos, and now I can see some of your video, guys, right? Some of them are crystal clear and others are not. Okay, the one that you see me right now is 30 FPS, basically. It's good enough for most classes, but if you want really a crystal clear streaming, I recommend that you should get 60 FPS or frame per second camera. So when you buy your own camera, just pay attention to the frame per second, okay? So the one that I'm showing here is the one that I use, is a Logitech, okay? I'm just using, as I mentioned, 30 frames per second. And something that I also recommend is that little thing that you see on top of it, you see? That's a privacy shutter, okay? And I noticed that a lot of companies, when they provide webcams to their employees, it comes with this physical thing. So if you're not using the camera, shut it down because it's a security risk, all right? That somebody can hack into your computer and basically have access visually to what's going on. When it comes to Microsoft, to headphones with microphone, okay, I am very low tech, okay? So my very low tech means that I using this Logitech H800 Bluetooth wireless headset with mic. That's the one that you see me right now wearing, okay? The important thing I wanna emphasize here is that I strongly recommend against using smartphone headphones, those corded or wireless ones, okay? Because they are designed for noise canceling technology for your smartphone, not for a computer. So if you, not only that, but you notice this little piece here, this is extremely important. I noticed some of you are, when we're presenting, you were actually did not have anything on your head, but you move your head, you're talking away from the microphone, right? You see me moving my head and my voice does not face away because this follows my head. So something so little like that basically will help having a clearer delivery of your classes. And the one that I'm using here right now is an old model, by the way. Particularly, I like it because basically I just have a button and I just flip it and it automatically connects from my computer to my smartphone. And I like that, but just to keep that in mind. Now, this is the one that I'm gonna talk about a little bit more because some of you were telling about bandwidth issues. Very likely, those people that's talking about bandwidth issues while class delivery must be using wireless. So you're using your computer, your tablet, okay, using the Wi-Fi at home, okay? So what's happening here is that imagine that you have Xfinity or you have any internet service provider giving you up to 1 gigabyte per second, okay, speed limit. So what happened there is that that does not transfer to 1 gigabyte per second on Wi-Fi. Not only that, but very likely your router, basically that thing that makes your wire connection into a wireless one, will decide automatically, very likely, how much bandwidth is going to give to each of your devices at home. All right. So that means that you can have a super fast, internet connection at home, but then you are just most likely your computer, your tablet, your Surface, your iPad is going to be sharing that Wi-Fi connection with other devices at home, like your smartphone, your TV, Roku, whatever you have connected, right? Alexa, anything. And it's going to be divide that speed into different chunks. And what it's going to give to your computer is going to be probably at most 20 megabytes per second, enough for watching Netflix. All right. So how do you avoid doing that? So what I did at home was that basically I got an extender. That you see the picture of this guy. All right. Here is the picture. This extender basically takes my Wi-Fi and boosts it over so I can have better connection across rooms, but that doesn't fix the bandwidth that you guys are talking about. What I did is I connected and put this guy there, and you can see here on over here, at the bottom of this device, there is an Ethernet port, all right? So what I do is I connect my computer, through a wire, through an Ethernet, okay, through this device, and literally my house has 200 megabytes per second speed, and I get 200 megabytes per second on my computer. All right. So for those people who are having issues with bandwidth, I recommend at least for while delivering your class, look into not using the Wi-Fi, but actually using a wire connection. So the last item there, and just to talk about a little bit about, so I mentioned here, so that means that I need a webcam, I need headphones, and I need to connect my tablet or computer to through the Ethernet. Well, usually if you, for example, have a Surface picture there, you only have one port. And the Surface 7, for example, only have a USB-C port. Well, then the magic to make all these connections is buying an adapter, all right? So if your computer have a USB port, okay, USB-C port, sorry, you can buy an adapter. This the one that you observe here is the one that I use. It only cost me, I think, $50. And it allows me to have two screens connected. You see the blue line there, sorry, the Ethernet. I have two screens. I have the power. I can have, this is USB-C over here. And basically, these memory cards I don't use, but I can have my webcam here, everything to one port. It becomes really hot. That's an issue with these things, okay? Just to remember that. But that's basically my recommendation when it comes to hardware. The principle goes wire better than wireless, okay? And that will be all.
Wonderful. Any questions for our hardware technician, David? I'm definitely going to be getting that webcam. So thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Much. Yeah. Okay.
I have a question. Were those and it's related to what Steve is saying there. did you get clearance for those purchases? Did you buy them from your pocket or from your research account, or?
I can
I
speak.
bought all these back
okay.
in May, when Emory did not crack down or that we need to ask for permission. But this was actually, most of these items were covered by the COVID funds that Emory gave us.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
COVID funds are no longer available, but if you have research account funds, just send me your request. And there are some things that I know that we do not have to get pre-approval from, but those that I'm not sure of, I work with Emory IT. We can get it for you. It's just whether you can purchase it on your own or whether we need to go through Emory IT. That's the what we need to figure out.
David, did you use Amazon for this? Since now you need Felicia to use
I
Amazon
used
for
that, but
us.
that was back in May before the new
Yeah,
rule
okay.
has
No,
come in.
I'm just asking so I don't buy it. I asked Felicia if it was Amazon. Thank you.
Okay.
Go through me first, please.
The other piece of hardware that some of you are using very successfully is the document camera. Just having a camera that points to a piece of paper that you write on with your own handwriting, and it's uploaded automatically.
That's it here.
I have heard of several of you using that to great effect.
No, that's it.
So Melvin is showing his document camera.
Right.
Tom Smith uses the document camera, and so several others. So Melvin,
A follow-up question for David, since he's our tech guru here, so I might as well ask him my questions. David, I noticed that if you write in real time on your iPad or on your whiteboard, the little one, there's this flicker. It's like mated and glossy picture. It's like a mirror. You can't really see well. Maybe that was the mirror in question that somebody raised earlier on. Can you talk a little bit about how to take care of that?
Of the mirroring?
Yeah, you know, when you put this red.com over and it projects on your shared screen and you're writing on this, or you're writing on the iPad, because the iPad is glass, the whole thing tends to flicker a lot to see what you're doing.
Okay, I think that over there, when I have not used that technology in which they're recording basically what you write is being transmitted.
Right.
Certainly, if you want to do that, that's you know, you shouldn't be writing on an iPad. Basically, the iPad can, you know, you should be writing on paper.
Okay, I see.
That's my recommendation.
Right. I think that's the same. You shouldn't be writing on this either, because the reflection is too much. It kind of amplifies.
The idea is on paper
Okay.
for those devices.
Thank you. One more question for you, David. Since I'm at home and I'm using my personal computer, I don't have the 365 OneNote. I have the personal one. So I can't log on to the Emory in order to do what Hugo said about using the OneNote on the canvas. How do you get around that?
Yes, you can. On OneNote, you can have two profiles. You have your own personal one, and then if you were to log out, log in with your Emory credentials instead, and you are back on OneNote, you know, your Office 365 sponsored by Emory. You can have two profiles on your OneNote.
And I can pass my personal one through Canvas?
Yes, you can. No, not through Canvas. On that one, what you need to do is you already work on Canvas on your OneNote at home. You will literally have to save that locally on your computer and then transfer it, transfer it locally to your Emory OneNote. We can talk about that later,
we can
because
talk about it later.
I had to do that a couple of years ago.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Shomu, are you ready to go?
Yep, I'm good. Hello, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. I prepared a little PowerPoint, which I think will be easy to use here. So these are my online teaching tips and pits, because it turns out that I've fallen into many pitfalls. So I'm going to try and help you avoid them, I hope. So more about pitfalls than tips. Well, thank you everyone for all of your suggestions. I'll definitely take some of them and do things differently next semester. So basically, I have my first thing is before we even start the class, it's a good idea to to use Microsoft Forms, prepare a questionnaire, and get input about your student profiles. So I did that with both my 201 and 101 classes to have a much better understanding of my students. And one of the things that I did painstakingly was to create all the time zones in the world. And so consequently, I know exactly how many time zones my students are in and how many people are in those time zones. So you can see, for example, there are 30 people in my 201 class who are in the Atlanta time zone, and there are about 11 or something in India. This is China, this is Korea over here. So, and this is one person in the Northern Mariana Islands, and their class is at an awful time, like 4 o'clock in the morning or something. So it gives you a sense of the distribution of your students in different time zones. And so, you know, and I have one person here who is from, I think, the Czech Republic. So, I found this extremely helpful. And the other thing about this Microsoft Forms is that depending on what kind of questions you ask, it automatically forms things like pie charts. So like one of my questions was, what is the highest math class you've taken? Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3. And right away you have a very nice graphic that shows you, you know, about a third of my class took Calc 3, which is not something I had expected. It's not a requirement for 201. So I thought that was very helpful to send out before a school started, before classes started. And I essentially assigned them this as a quiz, so they got some points on it. So everybody responded, and so I had 100% response rate, basically. Most of my offline teaching, I've been doing QuickTime narration over PowerPoint, which is a little bit, I found it to be more user-friendly than using the voice over in PowerPoint. So I'll maybe make a slide, make the elements come in one by one, and I frame my screen with QuickTime, and it's very, very easy to record a short video clip. I've been trying to keep my clips at under 5 minutes. This particular one was about 2.5, 3. And like Elena was saying earlier, as soon as they watch this, I tell them to go and do a quiz on Canvas. So this was about homogeneous functions. Then the quiz has 3 questions, you know, tell me the homogeneity, what's the degree of homogeneity of these functions. So it's a quick like pulse check. And that keeps, I use that mainly for the asynchronous materials. That seems to be something that a lot of people are doing, which makes a lot of sense to me. But I also use an in-class pulse check. So I've set up one of my first polling on my Zoom is what I call comfort level. So 5 is got it, 4 is mostly got it, 3 is got some but need to revisit, 2 has got very little, need to start from scratch, and 1 is lost me. So in the middle of the class, after I've taught, you know, I don't know, period efficiency or something, I'll say, okay, so how many people got what I said? And I'll put this poll up. And what the nice thing is that after you've launched this polling, Zoom gives you these thermometer bar readings. So you can just quickly look at the bars and see, oh, okay, I've got a lot of people in the 3 and 2 category, not as many in the 4 and 5 category. So it helps you to recalibrate in real time. I found this in-class pulse check to be really helpful. So I just basically went to Zoom and just set up this polling, which I use pretty much every other class. So these are 3 tips. There's one other tip which I didn't prepare the slide for, which is I'm using something called Piazza, which is a free software online. It's basically crowdsourcing in a way. So all my students are on there. So my TAs are on there, and I'm of course on there. And anybody has any questions with homework assignments, which are, you know, offline, they can post those questions, and because it's on my cell phone, I can jump in and answer. The TAs jump in and answer, and sometimes the classmates themselves jump in and answer questions. it's very helpful, especially for students who are in different time zones, because they don't have to wait until I'm awake in order to ask their questions. They can post it their own time, and some other person just sees their question and jumps right in and gives a response. And I found that very helpful. Now for 3 pitfalls, which you may or may not know. These are Canvas pitfalls. And I feel stupid having fallen into all 3 of them, but maybe you already know, but let me explain. In Canvas, there's a secret trapdoor through which your students can enter and pretty much see everything, okay, at least in my case. So let me explain. So I usually go and set up quizzes, and my quizzes are typically a sheet of paper with questions, and they have to download, write the answers, take a snapshot, convert to PDF, and upload. So that's those are my quizzes. So actually, this happened last week with my test. I set up my test as a quiz, and I posted it after midnight and went to bed. In the morning, when I woke up, I found that everyone had pretty much seen the test. And why was this? This was because if you go under Files in Canvas, there is a folder called Uploaded Media. If you upload any medium that is PDF or an image file, it automatically makes a duplicate in this Uploaded Media folder that's in Files, and it is automatically, by default, it is published. So when I uploaded my test on quizzes and I made it unpublished under quizzes, it got uploaded into the Uploaded Media folder, but there it was already published. So my students went in and they actually downloaded the test in the middle of the night while I was asleep. So I had to wake up in the morning and scramble to give them a different exam. Okay. So I don't know if you know this or not. This only happens if you're uploading PDF files as questions, which is what I was doing for my 201 class. For my 101 class, I created their exam as a quiz on Canvas itself that they had to answer, and it was automatically graded by Canvas, so no such issues. So this is pitfall number 1 to avoid.
Well,
Pitfall, yeah, go ahead.
you can, I don't know if you know this, but you can take out the option to students to see files away from students. You don't want to have them. All you have to do is take these files and take it away from what students see.
So I don't know how to do that. So the only other thing that I know is the circle that I just showed, this circle over here, is that when you post something on quizzes and it is unpublished, make sure you go to the Uploaded Media folder and you unpublish that particular item. If you unpublish the Uploaded Media folder itself, then anything that you posted in the past, the students don't have access to, like answer keys to, old exams and things of that nature, which were PDF files for me.
For me,
So
it's
I don't
easier
know
to just you go into your setting and take away files from their options so they can now see any files that you upload.
Okay, then
I'll show you how to do it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so pitfall number 2 is when you make a quiz on Canvas, and it's a numerical entry quiz. These quiz, if you make a mistake in putting in the answer, if you go in and you change the number afterwards, after the students have taken the quiz, Canvas will not automatically regrade. You will have to regrade by hand. So like on my midterm for my 101 students, in one particular question, the answer was 40, and what I had entered was 30. So of course, everybody got 40, but I realized afterwards that I had just made a typo literally. But when I went back in and I changed the typo, Canvas is unable to regrade. So I had to give them a point by hand for all 110 students. So there's no shortcut. So avoid this pitfall. On numerical quiz problems, you got to be super careful when you enter the answers. Multiple choice, any other type of question type, if you change the correct answer, Canvas will automatically regrade and repost the grades, but not with numerical quiz problems. last one is, this was my fault because I was working late into the night trying to put the midterm for my 101 students. So I wrote the midterm and I put in the answers, but I didn't have time to put annotations, so like explanations of the answers. You know, the reason why you get the dead weight loss to be 5 is because blah, 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 blah. So what I did was I gave the exam to everyone, and then I went and I entered the annotations thinking that they would be able to access it. But no, in Canvas, if you put in the explanations after the test has been taken, it will not show up. So one student who was ill and took the test later, he is the only person who can see my annotations on Canvas because he took it later after the rest of the class. And so please remember that any annotations on your quiz answers have to be done before the quiz is given. Okay, so these are the 3 pitfalls I've fallen into, one of which Elena is going to help me never to fall into again. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Shomo. That was extremely helpful. We're running out of time, so Kelly and Evan still have their presentations. I'll leave the floor to Kelly. Are you there, Kelly? Do you want to take over? Your mic is not on.
Got it. Thanks. I am sharing my screen, and so the title of my 5 minutes here or less is using the online format to our advantage, otherwise known as making lemonade. So once I kind of overcame the challenge of how to figure out how to get what I had been doing into the online format, I decided to try to get a little more creative and think about how could we use this accessibility that everybody has to technology now while in our classroom to our advantage. And a couple of things that I've thought about that several of you have touched on, so I'll skim over those, is Canvas pages, the uses of Google Docs, but then specifically the creative, coming up with some more different and creative assignments, at least that pertain to what I'm teaching right now. Regarding Canvas pages, one thing that I wanted to mention that I don't think has been highlighted so far is the comment that we received early on that students felt like they were getting more work this way than they do in a typical classroom. So on my Canvas page, I do a page for each week of class, and I am careful to highlight what is synchronous, what is asynchronous, and then what is to be done on their own time. And I tell them that's similar to what you would do in a regular semester. In reading your textbook or completing practice problems, that doesn't count towards your asynchronous work. I have done practice problems with Zoom breakout groups, so Elena, now I need to go and see how they like them before I continue doing that, to see if it's going as well as I thought that it was going. So thank you for the feedback that you gave on that. So one of the more creative, at least in my opinion, creative assignments I've given is giving students the opportunity to do online research within a group and discuss it during the Zoom breakout room. So for example, in the stocks and bonds class, we talked about the IPO process. And once I talked to them about the typical process, I pointed out that there's a couple of companies that went about it differently. So I split them into Zoom groups and had them go within their group and spend a few minutes researching the IPO processes of Google and Spotify, and then talk about what they did that was different and why it worked or did not work for their particular company. Another thing that I've done is split this group of about 70 students into smaller groups particular to a specific company that they're going to kind of track throughout the semester as we learn about the different financial securities, and they're going to research what's going on within their particular company of the security that we're talking about, and then use discussion boards to compare and contrast what their company is doing with what some other companies are doing. And just another example of some online research that I've had them do as well. Several of you have seen this before, but some of you may have not. So in my experimental class, I used a platform called VCon Lab. It's housed at the University of Virginia. That's the V. And it is an online platform where students can log in from anywhere and participate in interactive games. So it's extremely helpful and experimental. We use it all the time. But for other classes that you're teaching, here's just an example of some of the games that are available. So there are some macro games. There are some about different markets. You can see Bertrand, Call Market, Cournot, Double Auction. You can do a public goods game. You can do a double oral auction game. Huge variety here. And I'll be happy to help walk people through that if you are interested in using them. But the nice thing about these games is that they give graphical feedback. So we do an asymmetric information game or Lemons Market. And after students play the game, you can see we have supply and demand graphs for 3 different quality goods. And so I show them that, and I show them that this yellow line represents the equilibrium. And then we look at what the results were when they play this game using full information. And we can see that low quality goods are traded at the low quality prices, and medium quality goods at the medium quality prices, and high quality goods at the high quality prices. But once we remove the visibility to the quality, we can see that the market quickly falls apart. So they have participated in this, they've experienced it, and now they can see graphically what happens. So if any of you are interested in using VCon Lab, I'll be happy to help you get set up and use that for your classes as well. And that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kelly. So we have one more speaker. It's 2 o'clock. I know some of you have other commitments, but since this will all be recorded, I want to go ahead and give Evan a chance to talk. Evan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. Go ahead. Take the floor.
Excellent. So, I'm certainly one of the youngest faculty in the department, and certainly the youngest person on this panel, but I'm really an old man at heart. So, my online teaching philosophy has been, what can I do to make this as similar as possible to the in-person class experience? So I've largely kept the basic structure of the class. I haven't changed my lectures too much. I still have 2 midterms and a final. And really the only changes I made were to replicate the whiteboard through a tablet, and I've had to give now take-home exams. So I think I think that I put my effort into meeting with students and figuring out how can I improve the content, rather than say the content delivery. So that's been my emphasis. I do everything synchronous, and generally speaking, I think the students prefer synchronous content, but maybe it's different for you. That's been my experience. I think my strength is interacting with students, so I feel more comfortable doing synchronous lectures, but I'm sure whatever works. So that's why I titled this low tech teaching. I'm more of an old fashioned person. Let's see, what else was I going to say? At the beginning of the semester, I actually set up time to try to meet with as many students in my class as possible. I met the ones who were in Atlanta. I tried to meet with them in person, and the ones who are online, I tried to meet with them.
Evan, I'm sorry to interrupt. Kelly, can you take down your screen share so that we can see Evan?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Evan.
Oh, I still see the screen, but
I'm trying.
okay. So I met with them in small groups just to get them to know me. And what's hard this semester is they're not able to establish study groups or meet people in the class because they're all in different locations, and you can't just randomly introduce yourself to a classmate. So those small groups were helpful because they got people to get to know each other and get to know me. And even with that, I think only half of my 120 students even took me up on the offer. So, but the ones who did really appreciate it. So, let me see. The other issue I ran into was, this is more last semester, but students would upload these crazy picture files that I couldn't read or open. So this semester I just decided I'm going to give them 10% bonus for typing everything. And it's great. They type it, and I've got nicely crafted homework assignments and exams to grade. So, using some carrots to get them to present the material better, I think is helpful. I think they learn it better when they're typing anyway, because they have to work it out first, and then when they type it, they think about it a second time. The other thing I found is working through a lot of, I teach 201, so it's more theory and foundations. I find working through problems is a good use of class time. So I try to focus on examples. I can't quite do the level of interaction I was accustomed to in person, but the doing problems in class I think is really beneficial. Other than that, I think I know everyone's ready to go eat lunch, or at least I haven't eaten lunch, so I want to eat lunch. So I won't take any more time, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Evan. Any questions for Evan?
I have just something to add that I realized that this is, I created I'm gonna see if I can share this. I created a virtual emoji for some of my class. So because I teach coding, I do think that that's better asynchronous than synchronous, because the students can go back to what I'm doing. But I created a virtual emoji for for the first part of the videos in which I describe something. I think it's distracting for them to see my face and how much I move my hands. So I'm not gonna get into the details of this, but I tell them it was just to improve that online presence. So if anyone wants that, you can do it in Google Slides, and you just install the emoji add-on and create your own emoji. If anyone wants to be cheesy like me and add something like that.
Thank you. Is that the Bitmoji? It looks like you.
Yes, it's a Bitmoji. It's a
Wow.
Bitmoji. Yes. It's an add-on. I took this tip online, and I thought it was a good idea for especially for the administrative parts, in which I make a video about logistic things that they have asked too many questions that it's better to put it on a slide. I just do it this way, or yeah.
Well, thank you. Any other issues that anybody would like to discuss? I think this has been hugely successful. I can't believe that we got 7 presentations done in roughly our hour and a half. And we will post this online on our website. So if there's anything you want to look back on.
Yeah, now I just wanted to share my welcome screen to show Hashem how much I had improved on what he started.